everybody. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you very much also for the previous speakers. It was very interesting to share. And myself, I'm going to share my experience of adopting scaffold to the lecture that I give at University of Bologna, since I'm professor of educational research. And in particular, I adapted the scaffold to the lecture of project design in education. And my target are students who will become future educators and project designer in the field of education. So it is really what they need to learn and how we need to organize and build projects. Next slide, please. So what I'm going to share is some thoughts and insights, because I started adopting cards, and I realized that bit by bit cards could improve some metacognitive competencies related with project design. And in particular, when I lecture project design, I start by John Dewey classification of the forms of thought. So John Dewey is one of the authors that I insist on with my students, because he was considered one of the creator of the idea of pedagogy as a science. And when describing the way we think when we design education, John Dewey distinguished a flux of thinking. So when we design in a very intuitive way, and we don't stop and think, but we act and react to what students or pupils or the class ask. And on the other side, we can have the thinking as a form of belief. And so translating into the project design system, it means that we design according to some beliefs, convictions, sometimes even prejudice. And this is what happens when we do not reflect and share with others, and we avoid all the situation that can be in a way, contradictory to what we think that we think to know. And what we should do is to adopt a reflective thinking approach. And the reflecting thinking consists in stopping, analyzing the situation, analyzing learners' needs, detecting the opportunities, selecting the objectives, and going on in a process of design thinking that is the one that Scaffold promotes. And so this is why I could help my students in experiencing through Scaffold something that consists in what is called the concerted participatory approach to project design, which is the recommended way through which we learn to design in education. And this approach to project design insists on the importance of being practical, specific, functional, and contextualized to the situation. We cannot design in a way that is just in our thoughts, in our mind, in the theory, but we need to be in the context, and we need to share with the other members of the team who will be involved in the educational activities, and we need to share the meanings. And this is also another point that I could see applied in the use of Scaffold, because Scaffold promotes project design as a sport team, I would say, in any case, as an activity to be conducted in team, in a way that allows people to share and to put together a multiplicity of viewpoints and approaches to the same problem. It is also a tool that promotes empowerment in the users, because bit by bit they are more aware of all the contents and methods. And it is also good to promote flexible and recursive design, because, as you know, project design can never be too rigid. We need to come back and consider formative assessment as a way to improve, constantly improve the design. And so the assessment must be formative, especially when dealing with this kind of activity. So next slide, please. Oh, sorry, it was the one that I was talking about. So it concerted participatory approach to product design. And I'm really sorry because I forgot you to ask to switch. So yes, this is the next one, sorry. And another important thing that I observed, as I told you, I'm sharing some insights. So this is part of a research that I'm trying to conduct on SCAFFOLD. And so this is really the baseline of intuition and observation that will bring to a more in-depth research. But what I observed is that scaffold cards also promote something very important in project design in education, which is divergent thinking. Divergent thinking is the possibility, the abilities to see lots of possible answers or ways of interpreting a question. So when we adopt divergent thinking, we are able to seek multiple answers, not just one. And the goal of divergent thinking is to generate many different ideas about a topic. And so it isn't related with creativity, but it is not creativity in itself. It's something more. It is a competence that we can improve in our life, and that can be promoted under certain project design settings. And the cards correspond to this kind of settings. And so following divergent thinking, these ideas and information, and so ideas on how to promote competencies can be organized and then can be brought into a more convergent thinking. So we start from creativity and very diverse ideas, and then the cards are very useful and effective in bringing these very diverse ideas into a path for learning. Next slide, please. So another important thing that I observed in terms of how I observed the students using the card and how this use of the card could influence their way of thinking about project design is the notion of lateral thinking, which is a concept developed by Edward de Bono. And lateral thinking goes further the idea of divergent thinking, because lateral thinking is a way of considering creativities, that's something that can be realized every time that we create an environment for innovation. So innovation is something very embedded in the cards. I found that the way the cards were developed and the way the cards accompany the users in doing choices and trying to find solution is a way that help them to move beyond critical thinking. Critical thinking is the contrary of lateral thinking. When we adopt critical thinking, we are in the posture of judgment, while when we adopt lateral thinking, we are in the position of creating new ideas. And so when we use the cards, we know that we are full of opportunities for designing educational path, and we don't judge in advance the good or the bad solution. We adopt a reflective approach to make decision in group and to find the most effective solution and the most creative one also. Next slide, please. And so some conclusion that I came into, and that will then inspire the future research and teaching path that I'm going to conduct with my group, thanks to SCAFFOLD. So first of all, well, there's something I insist a lot, and SCAFFOLD is an excellent tool to do it, the importance in the definition of transversal competencies and the implementation of a common understanding and a shared language about transversal competencies. We all know how transversal competencies are important in education, but we also know that it is very hard to define in a way that can be shared. Can be shared among different disciplines or educational sectors or field. So the possibility to have a common definition and to promote this common definition is at the basis of project design with a view to transversal competencies. What I also noticed and I appreciate is the fact that the frameworks can be adapted, adjusted, recombined, so not applied in a prescriptive, rigid way. This is something very important because project design in education has nothing to do with the project design in engineering. We do not have the same model of project design. We need some much more flexible way of thinking and considering and tailoring competencies according to the characteristics of our targets. And as already said, the assessment of transversal competencies is fully about formative assessment. We need to move beyond the idea that transversal competencies can be assessed as we assess all the other competencies, mathematics, linguistics, and so on. So it is very important that we promote the use of formative assessment for transversal competencies. Another important outcome that I could observe is that cards are very good to connect formal, non-formal, and informal education, because we can put together different educators, stakeholders also around the cards to project design together. And finally, the cards are a very effective tool to teach how to train, how to project design, and so to insist on the importance of a constructive alignment process for project design in education, because project design in education cannot be something that we do on the basis of the flux of thinking, as Dewey said, but also on the basis of our convictions and also prejudice or on education. It is something that must be driven by constructive alignment and can be done in group. So thank you very much. Final slide. And sorry for forgetting to switch to the second.